Hey y'all, it's Lippy. Full disclosure before we start into this recipe. I did inquire with my brother. There was an ingredient missing in this recipe and I have never been able to perfect it. We put our heads together and I think that I may have found the secret ingredient. But I won't know until I try it. So let's hope our minds was in sync. My brother's 75 years old. I asked him about a recipe to him was 50 years ago, okay? So, crossing our fingers, I was missing one ingredient, we think. All right, this is what I grew up with. It was one of our family favorites. My dad made it usually 2 to 3 times a month, but on the average twice a month. And we called it red chicken. Hence the name from Paprika. But my dad used a Hungarian sweet paprika. That's what I use in all of my seasoning blends. So I had perfected that. I knew because I use a lot of this paprika. But we called it red chicken and gravy. And it was served over an open face piece of cornbread, and we would have a cold salad on the side, whether that had been an iceberg wedge with the vinaigrette, salt and pepper, sliced tomatoes and cucumbers, depending on the season. But it was always a salad, a leafy green salad on the side. So today we're going to have a bag of Caesar salad because that's what I've got in the icebox. So this is fast. I've got the cornbread cooking. So I'll drop the camera down. I lined out all the ingredients that you're going to need. But it's the technique I hope I may have mastered. Missing one ingredient. So let's get this recipe going. One more sip of coffee. Okay, since there's only 2 of us, I've got 2 large bone-in, skin-on chicken breasts. Now, you can use skinless, boneless, you can use thighs, but I'm keeping true to my dad's recipe. So this is bone-in, skin-on chicken breast. You're going to need a cup of water sitting to the side. You're going to need some chicken broth. Let's guesstimate about, for this amount of chicken, about 1.5 cups. This happens to be chicken broth that I actually put up, but any chicken broth will work. Then we're going to need some oil. This is peanut oil. You can use olive oil. You can use anything. There again, I'm staying true to the recipe, so I pulled out the peanut oil. 2 tablespoons of salted butter. Now, this is real butter. You're going to need 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. I may not use it all, but I did pull out 2 tablespoons. And these are 3 large garlic cloves. I kept them whole and not diced. And then here is our seasoning. In this little ramekin, there is 2 tablespoons of Hungarian sweet paprika. There is a teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of white pepper, a teaspoon of garlic salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Now the heat is going to be optional. I have a 1/2 teaspoon. And we have a teaspoon of sugar. And that's all that we have for our seasoning. Okay, I think you can see pretty good. Okay, now I did wash this chicken. I patted it semi-dry, but there is still a little bit of moisture, okay? And I've got this good and well combined. And I'm just gonna season the chicken. I think, y'all, the secret ingredient that I was missing, we hope, was the sugar. I will know when I sample it in front of y'all. If it is, oh my God, I'm gonna go stupid. because I have worked and worked to perfect this. And I'm there, but I wasn't at a home run. And I think, well, I hope that that was the key. Okay? So let's get some more of this goodness on here. And like I said, the cayenne powder is truly to your family's taste. And I did a half a teaspoon. There we go. All right, I'm going to get my hands washed. I'm going to let this rest for 5 minutes. I really want that moisture to start making the seasoning a little sticky. So I'm going to wash my hands, then we'll move to the stove when I come back. Let this sit about 5 minutes. Okay, all I've done is put about 8 tablespoons of peanut oil. This is where you could use olive oil, any oil of your choice. But my dad always used peanut oil in this recipe, okay? But it's about 8 tablespoons. As you can see, I've barely covered the bottom. And I'm bringing it up to temp. I'm sitting on about a 7. I'm going to slowly bring it up to temp. And when I start seeing just a little bit of movement, and I'll show you, that's when I'm going to come in with the butter. Okay, I can tell it's coming up to temp. So in goes the butter. Perfect. And that's when we're going to come in with these large cloves of garlic, because I will remove them. I am basically flavoring this oil. There's actually more butter, guys, than it is oil. We're almost there. Right here is about 1.5 cups of my chicken broth sitting on the very lowest temp that my stove will go, okay? Because you want to make sure that your broth is warm. All right. Starting to see the garlic turn slight tan, because we don't want to burn it, because that's going to give us a burnt garlic taste to our oil and butter. That's why you see me moving it. And you'll start smelling that garlic. It's going to get very pungent, but in a good way. All right, I'm going to go ahead and remove it. Whoops. Perfect. Now we're coming in with the chicken. I'm going to go skin side down. Okay? And we're not going to move this chicken around. All right, I'm going to get this cleaned up. We're going to let this go a good 3 minutes. I am going to turn it down to about a number 5. And like I said, you could use any cut of chicken, but I am staying true to my dad's recipe. Okay, now I'm going to remove the chicken. Set this aside. And I'm literally going to drain all of this, but about a tablespoon. Okay, we're going to add the chicken back in. We're going bone down, skin up. Okay, you're going to have a lid. This comes the fun part, guys. This is the purpose of the water, okay? We're sitting about a number 4. Maybe a tablespoon. And I'm going to drop it down to about a 3. And when that sizzle stops, we're going to lift the lid and we're going to add a little bit more water, because what we're doing now is we're cooking the inside of the chicken. Okay, we're going to add a little bit more. Put the lid back on. Now I'm going to move it back up to about a 5.5. Okay? It's been about 2 minutes. Now we're going to turn it over. We're going to put the lid back on. When this water starts to evaporate, where you think it's going to cook completely out, we're going to add a little bit more water. Then we're going to start putting a tent with the lid. In other words, I want the steam and all to escape because that's going to give us some caramelization on the bottom to make a gravy. Right now, we need to cook the inside. Okay, now we're going to turn it over. I have cranked my heat up to a 9, almost at a high. And we're going to start tinning the lid. These things are huge, y'all. All right, this is where the magic happens. Remember, we're almost on a high, and we have tinted our pot. You're hearing the sizzle. Okay, I did not have the camera on, but at least I didn't miss much. After the 5 minutes of rolling the chicken, I added half of this 1.5 cups of chicken broth. So 3/4 of a cup. If we need more, I've got some chicken broth sitting here. But I've got mine sitting on a number 3. Okay, we added 3/4 cup of chicken broth. That's all you missed. I just forgot to hit the button. Now, we're going to completely cover this chicken. If 3 on your stove is too high, turn it down to a 2. You want a steady simmer. And we're going to do this for 5 minutes. What we're doing now is we're cooking that chicken to the bone. If this was boneless and skinless, you would already be done with this recipe. But there again, we're staying true to the recipe. So 5 minutes right here, and then we're going to start making the gravy. But keep the lid tight. Keep it on a low simmer. Okay, while we wait the 5 minutes with the lid on tight, cooking the chicken the rest of the way, I've got 1/4 cup of water. We're going to go in with the cornstarch. Okay, we're going to make a slurry. And this is just regular tap water, guys, not hot water. And I do a slurry very thin. Okay, this was 1/4 cup. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to add the chicken broth to bring it up to 1/2 cup. And there's my thickening, because we're almost there. Set it to the side. And as you can see, this bone is pulling away. This one not quite, but this one is cut off. But this is a larger piece of chicken. So I know that it is cooked to the bone because this bone is pulling away, okay? Now what I'm going to do is get it turned because it's on its skin side. I don't want to pull that skin. Oh my word. Okay. Now we're going to crank the heat up to about a number 7 because we want this to get to a steady boil. Now all I did was add the slurry to the chicken stock. That's all I did. Now we have 1 teaspoon of paprika. Okay? And we've got another tablespoon of butter. This is what we're going to finish it off with. That's going to give that gravy a good sheen, silkiness, just a rich, rich flavor. Okay. We do have chicken stock in case it's too thick. I'm coming up to a good boil. And I'm going to slowly add this in and whisk it. And I'm just using my cooking fork. And we're going to let this come back to a boil. And I'm going to turn the breast back over. I'm going to tell you what, this is the biggest chicken breast. I think 2 people could share one. There we go. We're going to bring it back to a boil before we ever add our butter. Okay, it's starting to thicken. And this is where I'm going to be able to tell if I need to add chicken stock. If you have water at this point and you've used your chicken stock, you can thin it out with water. I don't think I'm going to have to add anything. It's going to be perfect. Now, if I wasn't staying true to the recipe, I would garnish it with some fresh parsley from the garden. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay true to my daddy, Chef Ernest Prudhomme. I'm just amazed. We didn't have no chicken breast this size back in the day. I'm talking about back in the 60s and 70s. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm happy with that. We're going to add the butter. Get it melted. Perfect. We're going to low. Let the flavors marry. And I'll see y'all back in about 10 minutes. And this is exactly how my daddy would serve it. He would take a piece of cornbread, slice it down the middle. I just pulled a little bite of the chicken just for the taste test. And this was our supper, guys. Many, many times. But here goes. We're going to try the chicken because the flavor is going to be sitting. Oh, I didn't mean to point that knife at you. The flavor is going to be sitting in that gravy. Okay? I know the chicken's fine. It was that gravy that I could not pick up on. That chicken is so tender, but it is so stinking hot. Okay, we're going to try the chicken. Chicken's different. Y'all. Was it the sugar? All right, I'm gonna wash this down. We fixing to really know. Here it goes. You know that smell? You know, it's that smell when you walk into your parents' home or your grandparents' home. And this smell, I told y'all, I've yet to master it. We fixing to find out. It was the sugar. And it wasn't much. Remember I told y'all on the live? I know it's rude to talk with food in your mouth. But remember, there was something. I knew I had the ingredients right. I knew I had the technique right. Oh my good gracious. Lippy did it. To my memory. Now, if there is something missing, I don't know. But to my memory, this is the closest I have gotten. I'm so glad I have a brother that remembered something. He remembered a sweet and spicy, you know, a sweet heat. I was like, the paprika is really not sweet. When you taste it, it brings a little undertone of sweetness when you're using a sweet paprika, but not the sweetness that we kind of remembered. I did it. To me, I did it, okay? That is c'est bon right here, right now, at this moment in Lippy's kitchen. Thank y'all for always pushing me, encouraging me. When I question something, you stand up and you say, go for it, girl. Well, guess what I did? I went for it, and I succeeded. I don't know about y'all, but I was trying to be polite. But you can't be polite with some good groceries like this. You just got to use these hands that God gave you. Bye, y'all.